In my career, I've never seen a highly successful change project. Change is either really bad or it's bad. If you want to really create new value, you need to think about what are new ways to do that, how can we be creative in that process, and what does that lead to then in terms of impact. I like to start with a method, then people have a step-by-step process that they can follow. You're going to waste a lot of money because you're going to have 25 people that are wasting their time in a workshop and not doing their job. There are about 2,000 new AI tools being released every month. You can very easily drown in possibilities. Start with a quick win, identify some use cases, prioritize them, and then you need to decide, are you going to build it, are you going to borrow it, or are you going to buy it? And this is innovation.
So that you connected with Malaysia a long time ago. How come you came to Malaysia? I don't think it's usually on the map for most people. I think people go to Singapore, Bali when they go to Asia from Europe, India, China. How come Malaysia and what made you come back?
I thought I wanted to be a diplomat. And in Norway, we have this traineeship program. It's kind of like an internship. And then I applied for a couple of different places and I decided to apply for Malaysia because it's a petroleum economy. And I did my master thesis on something related to petroleum. Malaysia was the first one that got back to me. I had an interview and really seemed like such a cool opportunity. So I decided to just jump into it. I did realize that diplomacy is not for me. It's a little too slow. I like the startup world. I had already dabbled being an entrepreneur. I decided that the best opportunity for me was to try to operate and run one of those companies and see what we could do with the investment that we've been able to get. I decided to go to Kenya and try to basically make this startup happen, which so many entrepreneurs before me have managed to fail, and so did I. And I learned a lot along the way, and that's how I ended up back in Malaysia. I basically just wanted to take a bit of a break, do something different. So I came to Malaysia just to work a bit, found an interesting company here to support, and was thinking to stay for 6 months or so. And then somehow Human Inc. came up in my radar, and I've been with Human Inc. ever since.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And like you, I won't say that it's written on the website, but it feels like you guys are people who think out of the box. How did the international journey, and is it reflecting your out of the box thinking? Did you contribute to it? How do you see the two things linked?
I think I'm very value driven. I care a lot about the value that I'm able to unlock, both for myself in my personal life and also for my friends, my family, my clients now. And I think that's maybe what the connection is. So I'm trying to maximize my life and what I can do and how I can feel my best. It's the same with the work that I do with Human Inc. and our clients. I also really want to try to maximize the value that they're getting from one, working with us, but also that they're able to get out of their own people, the systems, the processes they already have in place, how they can maximize value for their customers. That kind of goes hand in hand. The out of the box part comes with that. If you want to really create new value or maximize value, then you definitely need to think about what are new ways to do that? How can we be creative in that space, in that process? And what does that lead to then in terms of impact? So I would say it both comes from a place of being very impact driven, but have manifested in a little bit of different shapes. But definitely the overall work that we do in Human Inc., that comes from having been a startup founder, started my own companies and really learned the hard way what doesn't work and trying to help others avoid those mistakes, even especially the bigger companies, because those mistakes can be very costly and can feel not so great for the people that works there as well.
Amazing. I saw you on stage. I think the first time I came across you, you were on stage at KSI, an event on HR, but you talked about AI. And I think the way you spoke about it was not just eloquent, but very practical. So I hope we can get people who will be listening to us some of those insights. Can you tell us a little bit about what Human Inc. does for your clients?
We are an innovation studio, so design thinking studio, and we help our companies we work with basically grow through innovation. Innovation can mean different things. It can mean innovating things around your culture, innovating your product, services, experiences. It can also be innovating mindsets. So how do you bring the right mindset to be able to be ready for the future? So we operate across a couple of different aspects where we are merging, as you can hear from the name, the human part. So really trying to maximize people's potential and the value that they can bring to provide business value to organizations. So it's all about results and growth, but it's doing that through people. We help different type of transformation processes, whether they're leadership transformation, people need to build new skills to be effective, not just in 2025, or maybe in some cases, skills that probably were effective in 2018, but maybe not anymore. So how do we help people on that journey? And then the other part would be more on the consulting side. So helping through different type of transformation projects, whether it's product transformation, developing new products and services for specific segments, innovating processes, It can also be employee experiences. So how do you help employees feel better at work, and how does that then lead to retention and so on? Quite a different few aspects that we are enabling companies with. And the reason why is, of course, we are the innovation leaders. So therefore we need to innovate ourselves. And those needs have developed a lot over the last 10 years. But now, of course, the next thing that you also saw is AI, because that's a huge part of innovation. It's not the only part of innovation, but it's a huge part of innovation today. So therefore, that naturally also have become a part of our portfolio.
Great. I saw on the website you have three main services. Let's say you have the public courses, you have the more private stuff you call academy.
Yeah.
So you work with the clients, and then you have the consulting. Can you tell me a bit more about the academy part of it? What kind of topics? You already spoke about them a bit, but if you go a bit deeper on the topics, and if this is interesting to you, by the way, if it feels forced and you don't want to do it, but I'm very curious. I'd love to hear more from it.
And you guys are a brioHR, right? And this would be something that typically HR would be responsible for implementing. So therefore, maybe also relevant for the audience of this podcast.
Super. Yeah, great.
So in our academy offering, that means that we are doing in-house learning journeys. It can either be a short learning journey, meaning 1 or 2 days, or it can be a longer learning journey that lasts up to, let's say, 18 months. Normally, I recommend a bit shorter learning journeys because people do end up leaving or focus changes. But some clients have had a lot of success with also doing these long learning journeys. And then the topics that we would propose or that we would deliver within those learning journeys, that of course depends on the need of the client. So the client might have a specific culture that they want to develop. We can then support with learning programs that are enabling that culture. It can be particular needs that they have discovered within their workforce. So they've done, let's say, a training needs analysis, and they discover certain soft skill, leadership skills, innovation skills that they need developing, and we can support with that. It can also be related to leadership. So having a strong leadership bench, succession planning, etc. Then you need to have meaningful skills to help people level up so that they are, one, valuable within the organization currently, but also so that they can potentially step into new roles in the future. It's multiple different reasons for why clients come to us. In terms of what we normally deliver ourselves would be, as I mentioned, leadership programs. How do you have the right mindset in leadership for yourself? What does that mean? Also in terms of creativity and innovation. Innovation is kind of the overall frame here, but there are a lot of behaviors related to different innovation methodologies that also helps you become a much better leader, that creates more meaningful results, that is more human within their approach, that feel better, because leadership is also a lot about how you feel as an individual. And that goes all the way to change management and change leadership. So how do you show up as a leader and lead transformation projects, both from a people side, but also from a project side? We also have an innovation bucket. This is where we started as Human Inc. We started as a design thinking agency, and we did design thinking only for quite some time until we expanded the design thinking portfolio to a couple of different aspects of the methodology. If you're practitioners, we could nerd out on that, but design thinking is definitely also a big part of what we do. We also do agile mindset and ways of working, trying to enable companies in Asia to work more agile and individuals to work more agile without being so strict on the methodology. Sometimes the agile can feel very limiting. And then the last part we also do now is related to AI. So we have a design thinking and AI course, for instance, or a series of courses, depending a bit on the audience group, how deep you need to go, where we have basically helped clients innovate or drive the innovation process and increase the speed by 50% without reducing any of the outcome, where you mix the design thinking as an innovation methodology with AI to fuel that, which is also rapidly becoming one of the things that most of our clients are visiting us for, because it's a bit of a unique proposition in Malaysia. Not that there's not others that do it, but we have found a way to make it feel very comfortable for Asians to go through that innovation process, a process that was originally maybe made for more Western, outspoken cultures. Those are probably the key different buckets that we play in. We have many friends outside of Human Inc. as well. So we are also sometimes creating learning journeys that has different things that we're experts in Human Inc. and we bring in partners, etc., so that we can really make sure that we have a comprehensive journey that creates value and delivers results.
Amazing. What's more important, mindset or the methodologies and the skills?
Always mindset, but that's much harder to build. Most of the time, I like to start with a method, because if you start with a method, then people very often have a step-by-step process that they can follow. So design thinking, agile, even certain parts of leadership, it has models, it has methods that you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have done a better job than if you didn't have the method. And over time, when you apply the method enough times, which is why also application is so important, it's so important to have leadership support and buy-in for these type of things so that people are actually encouraged to apply it outside of the workshop, either with us or on their own. Then over time, you start forming a mindset around that methodology. So very often, if you have, let's say, going through a design thinking process and we are focusing on customer experience or centricity, when we drill that in through every step of the process and when they then repeat it, then they start actually also building that mindset. In my view, very often having a clear step-by-step process actually also helps build the mindset over time. And then, of course, there are some that are almost impossible to build their mindset where they are stuck in the same way anyways. And you can go through multiple different programs and you can try multiple different things. And of course, our role as consultants only goes so far. There's only so many ways that we can try to leverage to get people to either change their mindset, open their eyes, see things differently, apply the process. And that's why we need to have such a good collaboration and partnership with our clients so that we're able to together pull in the right direction to try to get as many people as possible to adopt whatever we need them to adopt or to change their behavior to become whatever we need them to become, to be aligned with what the strategy is and what the company needs.
How do you do group dynamic versus individual dynamics? Because I could see when you describe, let's say that you do an academy with 20 people, you have 1, 2 that will be like adopting the thing right away. You have basically your, I don't know, remember crossing the chasm, the early majority.
Late laggards, all of that, yes.
So you have this in the group. How do you take care of those different people? And what do you do with the people who will never change? Do you get rid of them? Do you keep them in different roles?
Very good question. Those are two different questions. I'll start with the first one as well. In a workshop, it all depends on how long we have. Let's say we have multiple sessions together over a couple of months, then it's a lot easier for me to make sure everyone has unique attention to them. I can even pull people that I can see are very disengaged out. I can try to have a session between the sessions to understand what are the concerns, what are the barriers, what are they resisting. So then it can be a lot more targeted and really try to attempt to get everyone on board. Of course, if we have a 1 or 2 day workshop and we have 2 or 3 people or 1 or 2 that are just disengaged, I will attempt, so I will still maybe have a chat with them on the side, but I will need to then adjust towards the majority because we cannot put it on a very basic level so that 2 people get it instead of having 23 or 18 people that gets it or that wants to be a part of it. So you have to play a little bit with passion. So people who are passionate, people who are keen, people who are eager, you definitely need to focus on them because those are the ones that's going to maximize the impact of the workshop because they're actually going to apply it. The people that doesn't care, they're not going to apply it. If they apply it, they will apply maybe 1% or 2% or something like that. So the impact to the organization is not going to be as high. So this is a constant trade-off as a facilitator that you have to make in terms of what's the most important thing to actually get this group to unlock the value that the organization wants you and needs you to unlock. When it comes to the second part of the question, let me just recall.
What do you do with the guys who will never change?
There's only so much I can do. I come in and I spend time with them in a session, group session, coaching, whatever. And then I, of course, give feedback to leadership and we try to curate and make the workshop experience as engaging as possible. But if that doesn't work, if they're choosing not to change, then that becomes a performance issue. And I'm not in charge of performance in different companies. So then there needs to be other ways to then potentially you could link training or adoption or behaviors. More and more companies are having behaviors as a part of their performance evaluation. So there are things that you can do from a performance point of view. I can advise on it. I can recommend it. We can create kind of KPIs around it, but I don't have the authority to do that. And some organizations will, but most organizations won't. In many organizations, you can be average to low performer and you will be allowed to stay for many years. You won't grow, but you will be allowed to stay. And that's unfortunate, I think. There's too many people that are probably in their job where they're not doing so much. But then, of course, there's a lot of people that are also doing an amazing job. So it's not to say that this is everyone. But performance is definitely a hot and a difficult topic in Asia and also in Malaysia.
Gotcha. Another thing that came to me, it's more the leadership side. So I've been in situations where leadership wants something or they think they want something. And then when it's time to implement and they need to change, it gets harder. And so it can be CEO thinking that it's going to be easy, but actually, no, you need to change too if you want the team to change. Same thing happens in the C-level team or even directors and lower levels. So how do you manage this? I want to change. I want the outcome of the change, but actually doing the change myself, not sure. You talked about human stuff. So it can be that people are very ruthless on performance, but the care side of taking care of people and making sure that emotionally the change can happen, they are holding themselves to lower standards, and the standard is too high in terms of performance, so they will resist. So how do you manage this, the clients and who's paying for the workshop versus what they want to achieve?
In my career, I've never seen a highly successful change project. And by successful, I mean, everyone felt good throughout the change. They felt like they were communicating accurately. There was no pain. Everything went smoothly. It doesn't happen. Change is either really bad or it's bad. Those are basically your two only options. So of course, because there will be resistance, we are creatures of habit. We will want to do things the way we have always done it. Even when the change is positive, which is also what you saw me talk about in the KSI event, is still, it's a change management process, and you have to help people to understand impact and be on board with the change. If not, they will want to do it the way they have always done it. So when it comes to change, that's the foundation that we need to understand, that this is going to be painful. It's going to be better over time, but there's going to be a painful journey that we go through. So that's the case for any type of transformation, in my view. And if anyone has found a great way of doing it, then please let me know, because I would love to hear about very, very, I would say, positive change projects. Success is, of course, measured more in terms of whether it happened and so on, but the employee survey scores around change tends to be quite low. When it comes to how to navigate that with, let's say, a CEO or a leadership team, I think the first thing is to make sure that we really understand our client. Depending on the type of change that they want to go through, it can be either harder or easier. Some change projects or some transformation pieces are not that challenging to unlock for that specific client. So again, this is client specific. It depends on where they are, what they want to unlock, etc. So there are some things that are very feasible to do. And then we need to understand whether or not what this particular stakeholder is asking us for is feasible within their context. So that's the first thing we need to understand, and we need to do our due diligence a little bit, ask enough questions, have enough conversations, so that we can also be able to advise on what we believe is feasible or not feasible, or what it actually takes to unlock what they want to do, so that they have a clearer picture of what this will actually take, what this will actually entail. So that's us doing our job as experts in this, and having worked with more than 250 different companies across Southeast Asia and giving them some advice. Of course, they can choose not to take that advice, but more often than not, having those conversations help craft some clarity and helps us at least see what's the ambition, what's the motivation, what is it that these are actually willing to do to unlock this value. And if they're not willing to do all it takes, then what would a smaller version of it look like? Could we start with one thing instead of three things, etc.? So trying to come up with basically the right approach to unlock the value that they're looking to unlock.
When do I pay as a client? Before the discovery, because that's the difficult part, right? You need to do so much work in order to understand the client deeply, and then giving him the first idea of what it could be and the pain associated with it for the organization, for himself. What point do you say, okay, now we need to charge? Because I can see this being a major investment on your side.
We will have some conversations first to be able to craft a proposal, and we will craft a proposal based on what we think is feasible, and we'll deliver the right results. So yes, there are some work that goes into the proposal stage. In some cases where we feel like we are not going to be able to do, this client is very unreasonable, for instance, or they have too high expectations to their teams or to themselves maybe, or they want to do a lot of things, but they have one day to do it. So there are some of these mismatch, and then we will not bid for it. We will then either pull out of the proposal and say that we're not going to be able to support them at this time, because we just see the disparity is going to be too big. It's a lot about how are we having those first conversations? Does it feel like a partnership? Does it feel like they want someone to blame for things happening, going wrong? I'm okay with that as well, as long as that's out on the table. A lot of consultants have the fun job of making the hard decisions, or being blamed for the hard decision. And that's also our job, right? So what is it that the expectations are? How is the relationship? Are we feeling like we're able to listen to each other, to understand each other? A lot of it is also that dynamic. And I think that's also why quite a few clients choose a consultant, is also to some extent based on chemistry. Of course, price matters and all of that, but do you feel like this is a partner that could actually help you through this? So I would say we have enough conversations to at least land on that, to understand, what do we see the expectation? Do we think we can do a good job? Are we having enough meaningful interactions to feel a bit of flexibility on both sides? Are we speaking somewhat the same language? Those are things that will then tell us whether we should bid for a project or submit a proposal or take it further, and then go from there. So I wish there was a bit more science to it. And maybe there are some other consultants who's figured this out even better. But for us, that's really what matters. Because I also want my team who goes into this client project to feel good about it. I want us to do a good job. So if I feel like we cannot do a good job, then I'm not going to not set us up for success.
Love it. Loved also the knowing that it's going to be difficult and probably setting the expectation that it's not going to be an easy process.
And that's okay.
I think
that's why you hire consultants, because it's difficult. So you have someone else who can help you do it, who's done it before. That's not hard. The question is it difficult to work with the client, or is it a difficult project? Those are two very different things.
Got it. Why, for the academy, why do it with you and not internally as an HR team? Like, let's say, why not ChatGPT some of the content and organize something ourselves?
If you have amazing in-house facilitators, I see no reason why you shouldn't do it in-house. We do a lot of, or for some clients who are going through a bigger transformation journey, we do TTT. So we build content for them. We upskill some of their facilitators to actually host it themselves to reduce the cost and to increase sustainability. So I'm all for HR teams doing this on their own, as long as they have the skills to do it and they have the experience to do it. Because if you take 25 people out of a full day of work, or even 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 full days of work, that's a very expensive day. Not just in terms of what you're potentially paying me, but the loss of productivity, the alternative cost of those 25 people doing something else that day or doing their actual job that day instead of being in a workshop. So if you're going to take people out of their day job for, let's say, 3 to 4 days, and you are delivering a workshop that is not impactful with a facilitator who doesn't really know how to engage a crowd, who has ChatGPT some content but doesn't know how to build a story around it, who has activities that doesn't land, that isn't built on different type of learning theory, then you're going to waste a lot of money, because you're going to have 25 people that are wasting their time in a workshop and not doing their job. So I would say it can be a very costly thing to do if you try to do it in-house. Of course, if you have the people for it, if you have the skills for it, if you've had the experience for it, if you have upskilled people to do it, then I think it's a fantastic way to increase sustainability.
Amazing. One of the questions that comes to me is you're teaching things that are quite new. It's always cutting edge, right? The design thinking is not something used by most companies. AI, how do you stay at the edge of innovation in terms of internal organizational development, culture and experience, AI, all these different things? And how can you build stuff when it's so cutting edge in a way that truly adds value consistently?
If you think about design thinking, agile, even some of the different leadership pieces, we are putting it into a frame that's quite cutting edge. We are very much linking it to what you need to be able to do and lead in 2025, 2026, 2027. That's the horizon that we work in. But some of the principles around it is not that new. Agile is not very new. Design thinking has been around for a while. It's proven methodologies that we know work to drive innovation. So the methodology is staying similar, but what you're putting into the method, so basically the project that you're taking through the design thinking process, that's what's new. So the problem is new, but the methodology is proven. I wouldn't say it's not new, because it's not that old, 80s, 90s, 2000s. But that methodology is proven. So it's the project and the problem that is new. So therefore, you need to be really good at discovering problems. And you need to be able to identify what problems are coming, not just right now, but, Horizon 2, Horizon 3 types of problems. What does foresight look like? What data and insight do we have today to be able to predict future problems, so that we can start building a balanced innovation portfolio and building the skills to be able to drive a balanced innovation portfolio. That is what the job is when you're talking about cutting edge. I would say that a lot of companies in Asia, not just Asia, but also can be Europe and America, but I would say in Asia, they haven't thought about this long-term horizon of innovation unless they are, I would say, a startup or more smaller than what the corporate clients we normally work with are. There are quite a few times where thinking about this balanced innovation portfolio, thinking about what we call Horizon 3, which is 4 or 5 years down the line. It used to be 10, but now it's moving so fast that it's 5 years down the line. Those are conversations and strategies that are not so frequently spelled out or frequently had. So helping organizations have those conversations, understand what that means and looks like, teach them how they can think about it from a different mindset or from a different frame, that can very often help set up that innovation lens. And of course, then the other part is when you're doing innovation, this is not just in terms of the upskilling part, but also the consulting side, then it's not always that an organization should build everything themselves. Could also be that they should buy something or that they should borrow something, rent something from another organization that is smaller, that is more cutting edge, if you want to put it that way, instead of trying to always do entrepreneurship and build things out themselves. So that's also a part of the strategy that you can adopt in terms of doing and driving cutting edge solutions. When it comes to the mindset and behaviors, yes, that is something that most of your organization need. You need to have an organization of problem solvers. You need to have an organization that is becoming increasingly fueled by AI. You need to have an organization that has a culture where creativity and innovation is a must. And you need to find ways to bring that to multiple levels, not just one innovation team. And that can happen through learning some of the methodologies, but the problems that those solve are normally not problems that are 5-10 years horizon. They are problems that are, a process or a customer or a product or something like that, which is still innovation. It's just innovation that's easier for people to do on an everyday basis.
What triggers a project for academy or for the consulting part? What makes clients come to you?
They have a specific strategic goal they want to unlock, and they have a pain point related to that goal. And that pain point can be a behavior or a mindset, or our competitor is out competing us here, or we don't know how to attract the Gen Z talent, or we don't know how to build a product with these constraints or within these bounds. Most of the time, there's a strategic challenge, and then there's a pain point related to unlocking that we can support.
The reason why I was impressed by you at KSI when you were on stage was your ability to think about use cases in HR with AI. Can you describe how you think about how to implement AI in organizations, specifically in the context of HR? Let's say I'm the HR manager. I have a team of 3. I've not been using AI much. Maybe I have ChatGPT, but I'm reluctant because I have too much work and seems like a black box. How do I start with AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would love to do the typical consultant answer and say it depends.
Please don't.
The first thing is a bit of knowledge, right? You need to make sure that you have some basic understanding of what AI is and what it can do. If you don't understand what it can do, then it's going to be very difficult to identify use cases. And you need to have a couple of use cases so that you can narrow down what you're looking for. There are about 2,000 new AI tools being released every month, so you can very easily drown in possibilities related to AI. Having a bit of a baseline understanding of what can be done, what exists out there would probably be one thing that can be a good starting point. It can also lead to analysis paralysis, so you need to be careful of finding the right middle ground. Then it's about sitting down together with your team and coming up with some use cases in terms of where you think AI could have an impact within your organization and within your processes. I have done the same with my HR team, and we came up with 7 different use cases. And then we evaluated them. We looked at some implications of what could happen. Where are they already existing tools? You can also use AI to help you with this. ChatGPT is amazing at knowing what AI tools are out there. And where would we have to build something? What feels like a bigger project versus a smaller project, etc. And then we came up with basically where to start. So something that is a quick win, easy to implement, where we can get some immediate value. And also for the team to then see the benefit of this project before we go into a big AI transformation. So I would say start small, start with a quick win, identify some use cases, prioritize them, and make sure that you're not trying to go too big right away, especially if it's the first time you guys are leveraging AI. And then you need to decide, again, are you going to build it? Are you going to borrow it? Or are you going to buy it? Which are your 3 options when you come to innovation? And this is innovation.
Amazing. I was speaking with a lawyer about the topic of AI, and he was telling me how ChatGPT is not always perfect or whatever Gen AI, and you need to be having enough context and enough experience from the past in order to truly leverage AI, because you prompt and then you verify. If the verification cannot be done because you don't have the skills, then it's not worthless, but it doesn't help you close the project. How do you balance the use of AI for first tasks, things you've never done, versus bringing in someone who has experience? And it could be AI, but also tools, any kind of process that you might use AI to build, or a human being who has experience.
Yeah. So again, build some skills first, then it's going to be a lot easier to determine. We have a Gen AI course that people can attend. It's both a public course where you can just sign up, or it's a in-house course. If anyone wants to do that, you can attend a course with us. If you are even feeling a little bit worried about a whole day spending it or 2 days spending it using AI. And in our courses, we actually help them tackle a specific problem they have at work, and we help them build an AI system around it. So it's very practical, and you leave with something very tangible. We normally guarantee at least 2 hours of saving per week if you attend the course. You don't have to go to a course in person. Of course, it can help and support you because you are getting a bit of hands-on support by someone who has been through this many times, who understands your context, your role, etc., because we have done it many times. There are also online courses that you can take in terms of prompting. So what you're talking about now with ChatGPT, that is Gen AI, and it's normally what we call prompt engineering. That's basically how do you engineer your prompt to get the maximum value from the AI, and what do you need to look out for in terms of trusting their response that you're getting, and what are some best practices related to that. So that's also another thing that you can do either with us, or you can also find different certifications that does it online, Google and so on. Not as engaging, not as fun, but definitely still valuable. Once you have a bit of that baseline understanding, it's going to be easier for you to understand whether or not your problem can be solved just by prompting, because ChatGPT can solve some problems, but it doesn't create a system or a process. A little bit more now with the agent version of ChatGPT coming out. But if you want to put together a seamless process where you're just clicking a button and then you get an output, then there could be some other things that you need to integrate to be able to get to that level of optimizing your processes. And to do that, you might want to talk to an expert, or you might even want to hire someone who does AI within your company. Most organizations should have either full-time or part-time someone that helps them leverage AI to build out their processes, even if you're an SME.
You spoke about analysis paralysis. I was going to ask you the question when you talked about the Horizon 3. How do you find the right balance between thinking long-term and thinking deep enough about products, clients, the entire company, and not falling into the trap of spending too much time thinking about those things instead of delivering, getting things done?
I'm not so worried about people spending too much time thinking about innovation priorities in Horizon 3, because you need to take a dedicated time and space to do that. Most people in their day job will not sit and think, oh, I wonder what the banking sector is going to look like in 5 years from now. They might think about it from time to time, but a dedicated space where they sit and they plot and they really try to think, what are the trends that we're seeing today? How does that potentially look like for next year? What does our product portfolio currently look like? What does that do to support those trends? Those are conversations that very often happens only in specific forums, if they happen at all. In terms of analysis paralysis, when it comes to that, I think so far I haven't seen a company who has that issue. I think more they are thinking too little about it. And this is a space you have to force yourself into a little bit. If not, you're going to think about operational pieces. You're going to think about your day-to-day. You're going to think about your balance sheet. Are you going to make money? Are you hitting your goals? Those are the things that you're going to think about even as a C-suite most of the time. I don't think that's going to be an issue for now, but let's see if we're able to change that. If we are, then I think we could rather tackle it. But the natural state of people would be to think about the immediate problem at hand.
Got it. So you work with 250 clients. What's the role of HR in all these different aspects you talk about? So academy, clearly that's one of your clients, one of your stakeholders. Consulting, I don't know whether it's the case. So how is HR involved? HR has many times, when maybe with the chief of staff, has the role of transformation of the company through the upskilling, but also how do we organize the right organizations? But it feels that in Asia, most of the time, this is happening not from HR, it's happening from the CEO directly. And in many companies, except maybe the largest ones, HR is more having a role of implementation instead of leadership in terms of strategy. Do you see this too in your portfolio, or HR doing differently? And wherever they are, how can they bring more strategic foresight, more strategic transformation, and have maybe more power in the decision, because they also represent the employees, not just from a performance standpoint, but also talent engagement or happiness or care?
There are some organizations where HR play a very strategic role. They play the role of an advisor, and they play the role of the transformation, as what you're pointing out. In other situations, HR is almost a little bit like a mailman or transactional post office, where they organize certain things and becomes that type of role. And that depends a lot on the organization. It depends a lot on the culture. It depends a lot on the CHRO, and it depends a lot on the CEO in terms of how important people is as a part of this overall puzzle that they're trying to make or work. I think after COVID, this has changed a bit, because during COVID, HR became so important. One, because people were going through a lot of transformation. There was a whole new work mode in terms of working remotely and now working hybrid. The people aspect became very high up, even safety. Should we go to office? We had a COVID outbreak. So HR became just so much more on a day-to-day basis of making some quite critical calls. So I think in a lot of organizations, HR's role switched a bit. after COVID. That's one thing that I'm very happy to see, because obviously as Human Inc., then the human part is very, very important for us, and to be able to see also our clients think in the same way. Whatever we do, as I mentioned, this does link to this part around innovation, right? And making sure that we are robust or building the either right workforce or the right products or portfolio for ahead of time. That means also that you have a meaningful innovation culture. It means that you have the right talent that is able to be a part of these projects. It means that you are prioritizing the right skills, the right behaviors within the organization to be able to drive innovation outcomes or even growth overall. So that is definitely the role of HR, and why HR should be somewhat involved in almost all of the projects that we're doing, because of the culture and the talent piece. And even for them to understand from a succession planning piece, let's say there's a consulting project and we're working closely, who's driving what does that mean, and so on. So I would say that's the role of HR. There are certain consulting projects where HR is not asked to join in, which is also okay, because it's, let's say it's a customer experience project or it's a new product development where HR can enable the culture, but that's about it. When it comes to other projects, culture projects, HR is the main stakeholder. When it comes to academy, HR is either the main stakeholder or they are the ones who have brought us to a business stakeholder to say, hey, your team needs this. These guys can maybe help you. We work a lot with HR, but not only with HR.
Innovation is accelerating. The AI is making it more, it's almost tactile, right? It's getting into our lives way faster. So we need to innovate faster. Our competitors are emerging. We are in software. So we know that we can be moved, we can be disrupted quite easily if we are not implementing AI, if we're not delivering AI to our clients. Every industry is suffering from the same problem. You can see average company lifespan reducing greatly since the 50s. I guess those numbers you have. The talent engagement feels no longer like a future of work kind of thing. And aspirationally, we want to have more people engaged. It feels like something that you need. Otherwise, you'll disappear, because if not, everyone in sales, everyone in marketing, everyone in every one of the jobs in the organization is not looking outside on what's happening and then bringing the information in, able to have a voice internally so that this information goes up the ladder, and then finally implementing a strategy can happen, reformulating the strategy, implementing the new strategy. If this is not enabled by more employee engagement or just people more committed to their role, more passionate, then things are not going to work. So I imagine this is part of what you say to your clients, but maybe what they bring as well as insights. How do you talk about it? What's the way Human Inc. pitches or explains the problems of this necessity for talent engagement and a strong human organization in order for AI not to be the death of the company, but more like the blossoming of a new version of the company kind of thing?
Yeah, I will answer that question after I give another comment first, is that not all companies are there yet. We have a lot of traditional companies in Malaysia who are nowhere near this world that you're talking about. And then we have an SME sector, a startup sector, or some forward corporates that are very much where you're talking about. There are a couple of different lenses that we need to look through. There are companies in Malaysia that are quite large and they don't have a performance management system. They've never had any type of upskilling ever happen in their organization.
Please introduce us.
Yeah, happy to. So there are some companies that are still very much in that reality, who is able to still deliver value, who is able to create the same value that they have been creating for the past 10 years. They're not creating a new value, but the value that they're creating is still relevant. That is still very much one part of the puzzle. And the other one is more what you're talking about. For you guys, you're an SME startup. Same with us. We have to constantly innovate. We have to attract the right talent. We have to retain the right talent. And we have to make sure that we have an organization that people want to work for. Those are true realities. If we talk about this reality over here, where we see engagement as critical, we see that culture is really a true enabler for people to stay. We see that culture can be an enabler of any type of strategy, behaviors, etc. Then what we need to do is, again, we need to understand what's their strategy. If you want to have a good culture, or you want to have people engagement, how does that unlock strategy? How does that unlock results? What are the results that they want to build? What are the results that they're unable to build currently because of some sort of a people either challenge or untapped opportunity? We need to understand the business side first. If you understand the business side and then we are able to link that back to people, then that becomes a much more compelling case than to say you need to build creativity within your organization. Why do you need to do it? What are the strategic goals that you're looking to unlock? What's the expected return that you want from this engagement? We can't always measure it that directly, but are we able to articulate that? Because then the people problem becomes a business problem. And the moment it's a business problem, then the business is interested. If it's just a people problem, then either if you are a people-centric CEO, then of course you will care about it. or it's just the issue of the CHRO, right? And then the investment, the time, the commitment towards it goes down.
Cool. Super cool. What's the team of Human Inc. composed of? It's like what kind of teams you have, what kind of profiles? And yeah.
We actually have a little bit of a diversity problem in Human Inc. I've been trying to hire men for the longest time, but somehow I end up with only hiring women. So we are 90% female. Our founder, Chris, is the only guy in the team. So that's a bit of a different composition to most Malaysian companies. So very female forward. The composition of the team is a mix of startup founders. We have people that have experience from the SME sector. We have people that have experience with ecosystem partnerships and how do you build that. We have people with consulting background. It's quite a diverse team from different both aspects of race, but also a heritage or background, and also in terms of experience. So we try to have diversity. Diversity fosters innovation. In addition to that, because of some of the aspects of what we're doing, let's say AI and so on, we need to also have experts within certain fields. So being able to do one thing really well is not enough to support an overall innovation, ecosystem, mission, culture, etc. We also have some amazing experts that we have worked with for many years now that comes in to consult on specific projects around specific topics, and that can come in and can deliver even more value than we can because they have done just that for the past, let's say, 10 years. Certain aspects of AI, we have that. Agentic AI, for instance, we have some experts related to that. Also related to things like very senior executive presence. We have some experts related to that. We have some CX experts that comes into certain CX projects. We also have, of course, a lot of ex-CHROs or current CHROs that are advising us on certain people projects. So we really try to leverage the fact that gig economy is coming up, but only with people that we are close with, because we tend to want to over-deliver to our clients. And to be able to do that, we need to really trust and know the people that we are working with.
You have very large clients on the website. You have 250, but the logos that are there are very impressive.
Yeah.
How do you get to be chosen for those missions versus McKinsey, BCG, other consulting firms?
Yes. So, of course, there are certain parts that we will not get chosen for. The BCGs and the McKinseys of the world are more suitable to certain types of projects. I would say we found a very meaningful niche where we have an expertise that is quite clear, at least for people who are in the industry, in terms of what we can do. We never promise that we can do more than that. So we are quite clear on what we can and what we can't do, because, again, we're in the business of doing a good job. Of course, we deliver a lot of value, but we're not charging the same as a McKinsey and a BCG. We are a mid-tier company, a niche boutique agency that is focused on something specific. That's one. Sometimes price can be a deciding factor. We're not the cheapest, but we're also worth the value we deliver. Then, of course, it's a specific problem. So it's about understanding what they need and see if that matches our experience, what we can do, or the value we create, etc. And then I would say then the last one also comes down to connection, like what I mentioned earlier. When we are working with clients because we think we can work well together, then our clients are also working with us because they think they can work well with us. So I think sometimes it also comes down to that. Is this the right partner for us in this transformation? In some situations, yes, that's Human Inc. In other situations, maybe it's not Human Inc. It's about a holistic evaluation and to be able to play and articulate meaningfully to the clients that we're talking to, and that they have the right scope at hand. Sometimes the scope isn't for us, and that's okay.
Love it. Being able to say no is an important thing. On the trust side, we talked about the leadership side, and basically the way you resolve that trust building is not only the 250 clients, but going back to strategy and their actual OKRs. For the trust with the rest of the team, let's say that you come in the mission, the CEO told you to come in, or the CHRO, and then now you need to work with the other directors and their teams. How do you build the trust? Because change is stressful. They have not been part of the design of the mission, so they are probably coming a bit late. How do you do it?
Most of the time, we are lucky enough that resistance has either been flagged in advance. Let's say the CEO or whoever hired us, they know that these people are resistant, so we can be a little bit extra alert. So we do try to get a little bit of intel, CIA style, on who are the different people within the organization, what do they care about, etc. So that's one thing, being able to enter informed about the potential resistance we will see. Of course, sometimes they are wrong, but often at least we have something to gauge so that we know where we can put our focus. Another thing that can work very well is also to have individual conversations. So instead of going into a group, can we have some one-on-one conversation, particularly with the director or the rest of the C-suite, to understand their view, make sure that they feel heard. A lot of part about trust is to feeling heard and feeling understood, whether we can do something about it or not, but do we really understand uniquely your issue, your position related to this? And are we able to relate to that or somehow either create reassurance or make sure that it gets brought up into the right forums? I'm a big fan of having some one-on-one conversations, particularly when it's a very critical transformation project. And then also, of course, people are responsible for different parts of strategy. So if you take it back to that, then how can we understand, let's say, what's the chief legal officer's responsibility related to this? Or if it's a head of L&D, what is it that they're responsible for and how do they see this? That's the first part. The second part is that it also helps just being an outsider. So even though we've been hired by someone, we're not here to do exactly what that person wants us to do. We're here to do what the organization needs. I think coming in with that very impact-oriented lens, talking about values, speaking about goal, making sure that they are understanding, that we are understanding them, and so on, I think that also helps so that people are not seeing that we are with someone or against someone else in that context. And the other thing we do is, of course, we are experienced designers as Human Inc. That's why our academy workshops, our public courses are so popular. It's because we do create really meaningful experiences that people, one, enjoy and have fun in, but they also see a lot of relevance from it. It's also about how do we start a workshop? What are the first thing we do? We normally try to play some sort of a meaningful game so that we very quickly get into a bit of a fun space, but at the same time, link it back to why we're here. It's different facilitation techniques that you can use to get people to feel comfortable. I was hosting a workshop this last week in Penang with a client, and the regional head of HR told me that it's the first time he's seeing people be so engaged throughout a workshop because of those type of facilitation techniques and experience design pieces that really helps both bring up engagement, trust, etc.
I love it. You're answering questions as I want to ask them, so it's amazing.
Good.
Thank you. It's easy to interview you. Do you share any audit sheet or tool for organizations to check how they are on design thinking, Gen AI, leadership, those different topics you talk about? Is it something you share or you only do it as part of the academy?
It's a great business idea for us.
And lead generation
and
as
lead
well.
generation as well. There are some assessments that we have built out and we can, yes. So maybe I need to go back into and look into some of those pieces. We are able often we help assess companies on their maturity. I think that's what you're talking about now through the conversations that we're having with individuals. I have seen in Malaysia particularly, and not just in Malaysia, but in Southeast Asia, that people tend to overestimate, particularly their innovation maturity, quite drastically. So when I get them to do a maturity assessment based on a couple of questions, we often do this in a workshop, then their innovation scores comes out of, let's say, 3 out of 5 or 3.5 out of 5, something like that, which is actually quite high. If you think about it from a global standard, being an innovative company in a 3.5, it's quite rare for corporates to be that high up, particularly a more traditional corporate. People are quite often overestimating their own innovation maturity, and I don't fully know how that is related to AI, so I'll be curious to see. But the innovation maturity, people do tend to overestimate. As much as those assessments, yes, it can be meaningful, but it's more meaningful if you do it as a part of a facilitated process where you actually get people to either justify or question the numbers that they see coming out of these things. And we also see the same sometimes with self-assessment, particularly with senior leaders, where they have to rank themselves on certain leadership, either behavior or scores. We actually sometimes see that those scores go down after a leadership journey because they entered a little too overconfident. Yeah, absolutely. I know how to do that. I know how to create psychological safety. I absolutely know how to give feedback. I know how to meaningfully drive performance through my people. So there's some of these statements depending again on the goals of the client. And then we actually see those scores after a 4-day journey, they go down because people had a bit of a reality check of what it actually entail. And those scores, of course, also, we then need to make sure that we can explain to the stakeholders, right? And they're now saying minus 22%, not 22 is a lot, but minus 5%, let's say, in confidence. So then we need to have some conversations about that. And sometimes this can be a very good indicator because it means that people really had an eye opener. But naturally, if you just send an assessment with those scores, then it looks a little bit weird, right?
Yeah, cool. Okay, what's the future of work looking like? Let's say on Horizon 3. Where do you see the organization go? How do you guys organize at Human Inc? Is it decentralized, autonomous organization? Or we're not there yet? Yeah, what's the future of work?
This depends a lot on your organizational culture. I wish I could tell you that one size fits all, but it doesn't. There are certain things about the nature of your work. It's the certain things about the nature of your current culture and also what you want your future culture to be that is going to influence your work mode. And your culture should be, again, supporting your strategy and you're supporting your goals. You need to start there and you need to see what is the culture that you have, what is the culture you want to build, and then what work mode will support that. In some situations, that's a fully flexible hybrid, a fully flexible, fully remote environment. A lot of organizations or some organizations are moving towards that. But again, you cannot create results with that model unless you have a culture to support it. So then you need to build a culture before you can get there. Not all organization wants to do that. Then, of course, you have other organizations who are actually reversing back, who used to have a fully hybrid and fully remote. Even some of the bigger tech companies, in the last few years, there were a lot of them that was mentioned. They are moving in the other direction because they're seeing things like productivity or results, human connection, innovation go down with a more remote environments. Again, depends on your strategy, depends on your culture, depends on your ambitions and what you want. I cannot say anything, but it depends.
Okay, fine. You can use one of those. Okay, you said it. That was one of the questions as well to close. What is the future of Human Inc? A geographical expansion, more courses, more stuff? Do you guys become a tech player? Or how does it look like?
Yeah, let's see. There's so many options. We are open to a lot of different things in terms of all of those. We are already doing quite a lot of different things around Southeast Asia. Chris, our founder, he moved to Thailand, so that helps a lot with having someone on the ground there. But so the geographical expansion, absolutely. For Human Inc, we are already a fully hybrid company. You can also be fully remote. So that, of course, creates a lot of freedom. I'm working a lot on also implementing and embedding even better employee experience initiatives. We just launched unlimited paid time off. We are also doing a couple other pieces. So we're really trying to put people in the focus because we're a Human Inc, so that our team can deliver the best experiences for our clients. When it comes to technology, absolutely. Definitely tech enablers are important. Assessments, also something we are embedding more and more to make things more data-driven. We're constantly working on how we can get better at reporting ROI to our clients. Everyone has to talk about the money now. So we're finding ways to do that, leveraging AI, interviews, agents, surveys to be able to give a better prediction about or better insight into what the return on investment is for the programs that we are running. So there's a lot of those pieces. I would say in terms of offering more courses, yes, we will probably expand a bit on our product portfolio, but we will do that through partners. As Human Inc. and the talent we have, we know what we are very good at. We want to collaborate with other people who are amazing at doing certain things, and we already are. So there will likely be some expansion in terms of courses to make sure that we're aligned with what it means to be an innovator today. So yeah, all of the above.
Amazing. And one last question, mindsets. Which one is the one that you think is the most important one to have?
As an individual or for an organization?
As an individual.
I wish I could use another one of it depends.
You can't.
But okay, for me personally, so this is just my personal view, I think urgency is quite an important mindset and behavior. Urgency means a lot of different things. It means that you get things done. It means that you see the urgency of changing things. I could say growth mindset because that kind of encompasses all of them. But if I'm going to be even more narrow, then I would say having a sense of urgency is important.
Amazing. And is there anything about Human Inc. or yourself that I should have covered and I didn't ask the question?
I think you covered a lot of different things. So if anyone is curious about more, they can reach out to me. They can reach out to some of my amazing team. You can go check out our website if you want to hear more about case studies, etc. I'm always keen to meet people in the industry, even if it doesn't lead anywhere, connecting with the right people, making sure we stay ahead of trends, talking to people of relevance. Yeah. I think you did a good job.
Thank you, Synne. And where in Kuala Lumpur are you guys based?
We have an office in Sentul.
Okay.
So we have an office in Sentul, but we are very often with clients and we connect virtually a lot. I travel quite a bit, so there's multiple different places to catch me.
It's okay. So we won't be having 100% hit rate if we go there.
No, you won't.
Good. Thank you so much, Synne.
Thank you so much.
Have a beautiful day.
Bye.
Take care.